Jerome K. Jerome's Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog, had humble beginnings as a practical guide to boating on the Thames rather than the comic classic it ultimately became. In 1888, fresh from his honeymoon cruise with his wife Etty on the river, Jerome set out to write the story of the Thames, a travelogue combining historical vignettes, local lore, and camping advice for would-be holidaymakers. He planned to sketch the villages, churches, and scenery between Kingston and Oxford, filling his chapters with topographical notes and antiquarian details. Almost immediately, however, Jerome found himself unable to resist the absurdities inherent in river travel. Anecdotes of burnt breakfasts, stubborn tents, and bungled map reading began to dominate his drafts. By the time serialization began in Home Chimes magazine, the weight of humorous mishap had tipped the balance. Readers were far more interested in the three friends' blunders than in dry historical exposition. Jerome embraced this comic impulse, reworking his manuscript into a seamless narrative that celebrated the ridiculous and the everyday in equal measure. The three protagonists of the novel were drawn directly from Jerome's inner circle. The narrator J. is a lightly fictionalized version of Jerome himself, a Londoner seeking respite from overwork, prone to hypochondria, and whimsical digressions. His friend George represents George Wingrave, a banking colleague and Jerome's eventual best man. George is the first to propose the Thames outing and often embodies sensible planning, only to be undone by the trip's inevitable chaos. Harris is modeled on Carl Henschel, a printer and fellow boating enthusiast. His exuberance and propensity for rash decisions consistently amplify the story's comic tension. The sole wholly invented member of the crew is Montmorency, a spirited fox-terrier whose misadventures mirror those of his human companions. Jerome later confessed that Montmorency developed out of that area of inner consciousness which, in all Englishmen, contains an element of the dog, capturing both canine bravado and absurd cowardice in equal measure. From attacking a kettle to challenging a local cat, Montmorency provides a running commentary in temperament if not in words, reinforcing the novel's theme that man and beast alike are prone to folly on the river. By the time Three Men in a Boat was published in book form in 1889, it had transcended its origins as a mere guide. Jerome's pivot toward humor created a work whose charm lies in its blend of practical detail, affectionate characterization, and unvarnished depiction of everyday calamity. The prototypes of J. George, Harris, and the imaginary Montmorency ensure that the novel remains both rooted in real friendships and universally relatable, securing its place as one of the most endearing comedies of English literature.
Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog, is Jerome K. Jerome's timeless comic masterpiece, first published in 1889, which chronicles a hapless boating holiday on the River Thames. Ostensibly a simple travelogue, the novel follows three friends, J, George, and Harris, and Montmorency, a mischievous fox-terrier, as they attempt to escape the stresses of Victorian life with a week-long trip from Kingston to Oxford. What begins as a genteel expedition among bucolic vistas quickly devolves into a riot of self-inflicted calamities, miscommunication, and pratfalls that have delighted readers for more than a century. Jerome's narrator, J, offers wry, eloquent observations on everything from floating water lilies to the perils of mosquito bites. His elaborate digressions, on topics as varied as the history of bathing costumes, the merits of different camping stoves, or the proper way to swaddle a baby, build a rapport with the reader that feels at once intimate and conspiratorial. These playful excursions into arcane trivia serve to puncture the sense of genteel respectability that the protagonists desperately try to maintain, reinforcing the central joke. Well-meaning intentions often lead to absurd results. George, the practical-minded friend who originally proposes the voyage, fares little better than his companions. He is perpetually exasperated by Harris's rash decisions, such as choosing the narrowest locks on purpose, and by J's tendency to fall into the river at every available opportunity. Harris, meanwhile, supplies a steady stream of overconfident schemes, from grandiose attempts at mast-raising to dietary experiments involving pickled onions and port wine. His blustery demeanor and appetite for manly adventure frequently collide with the trio's collective incompetence, magnifying every minor setback into epic hilarity. Montmorency, the book's only fictional character, is a spirited fox-terrier whose antics mirror the men's foolishness. He attacks camping gear, terrorizes local wildlife, and embarks on solo explorations only to return looking mutinous. His presence elevates each mishap, whether a capsized boat or a botched picnic, by underscoring that neither humans nor dogs are immune to folly when removed from the comforts of home. Beyond its slapstick humor, Three Men in a Boat offers a vivid portrait of the Thames and its riverine communities in the late 19th century. Jerome describes ivy-clad cottages, ancient mills, and sleepy hamlets with affectionate detail, inviting the reader to share not only in the protagonist's disasters but also in the tranquil beauty they repeatedly overlook. Saintly church spires, willow-lined banks, and the distant spire of Oxford's dreaming city are rendered with lyrical warmth, reminding us that paradise often lies just beyond the next bend, if only we could arrive intact. The novel's enduring appeal lies in its masterful blending of comedic set pieces, gentle satire, and genuine appreciation for the river's landscape. Jerome champions leisure and friendship over the prevailing ethos of Victorian industry, suggesting that misadventure and laughter are themselves rewards. More than just a humorous diary, Three Men in a Boat remains a celebration of human fallibility, of the extraordinary found within the ordinary, and of the simple joy of drifting downstream with good company and a dog in tow.
In Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog, Jerome K. Jerome populates his rollicking Thames adventure with four unforgettable personalities whose distinct temperaments drive much of the novel's humor and appeal. Although their foibles and endearing qualities emerge in concert as they navigate locks, campsites, and country lanes, each character contributes a unique perspective on companionship, leisure, and human, and canine, fallibility. As both storyteller and participant, J. provides the novel's wry, reflective voice. He is an amiable hypochondriac who constantly frets about his own health, suspecting every headache or sniffle of looming disaster, yet he also delights in elaborate digressions on diverse topics, from the history of bathing costumes to the relative merits of different brands of camping cookers. His habit of turning minor inconveniences into epic meditations, for instance, a damp shawl becomes a treatise on the folly of silk garments, endears him to readers and underscores the gap between his lofty contemplations and the messy reality of the trip. Beneath his self-deprecating humor, J. reveals a thoughtful observer with a genuine affection for his friends and for the river landscape, even when he repeatedly bungles its navigation. George is the most pragmatic of the trio and the originator of the boating holiday. A banker by profession, he arrives on the riverbank with a sense of order and purpose that is quickly undermined by the everyday absurdities of outdoor life. He frets over the proper fitting of boots, fusses at Harris's impetuous maneuvers, and scolds J. for his penchant for intellectual digression. Nevertheless, George's good sense seldom saves the party from mishap. In fact, his attempts at caution often draw even more attention to their collective incompetence. Through George, Jerome satirizes the illusion that careful planning can reliably tame a capricious natural world or the unpredictable behavior of friends. Harris embodies overconfidence and bravado. Brimming with enthusiasm for manly adventure, he is forever proposing grand schemes, erecting an impossibly tall mast, descending rapids, or staging an impromptu theatrical performance on the riverbank. His appetite for challenge outstrips his actual skill, leading to mishaps that range from the comic, capsizing the punt, to the absurd, attempting to navigate a 5-bar gate with a collapsible boat in tow. Harris's boundless energy and stubborn insistence on doing things his way exacerbate the novel's comic tension, yet his hearty good humor and unwavering loyalty confirm that, despite everything, he would never desert his companions in trouble. Together, these four characters create a dynamic ensemble. J's philosophical meanderings, George's exasperated pragmatism, Harris's reckless optimism, and Montmorency's anarchic instinct combine to form a comic portrait of friendship tested by the elements. Their distinctive personalities not only fuel the novel's most memorable set pieces, capsized punts, botched picnics, and bungled camping routines, but also affirm Jerome's central theme, that camaraderie, laughter, and shared folly are themselves the greatest rewards of any journey.
Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog, has enjoyed enduring popularity since its publication in 1889 for a constellation of interlocking reasons that continue to resonate with readers more than a century later. First and foremost, Jerome K. Jerome's novel excels as an exercise in timeless comic ingenue. The series of escalating mishaps, capsized boats, bungled campfires, misread maps, are constructed with impeccable comic timing. Jerome deploys repetition and exaggeration to brilliant effect, letting each small setback compound into uproarious disaster. Whether the target is the trio's ineptitude in pitching a tent or Montmorency's impish sabotage of the camping stove, every episode feels at once fresh and familiarly human, ensuring that readers from Victorian England to the 21st century still find themselves laughing aloud. Equally important are the novel's four central characters, whose distinct personalities create a dynamic ensemble. J, the self-effacing narrator prone to hypochondria and digressive monologues, acts as our guide. George brings exasperated common sense, Harris contributes boundless but misplaced enthusiasm, and Montmorency, the fox-terrier, offers a non-verbal, anarchic counterpoint. Their interactions capture the warmth and frustrations of close friendship, so that readers recognize in their own social circles the same mixture of affection, teasing, and mutual bewilderment that propels the narrative. Jerome's vivid evocation of the River Thames and its banks provides more than mere backdrop, it becomes a character in its own right. His lyrical descriptions of willow-fringed towpaths, sleepy villages, and lime-washed cottages celebrate the pastoral beauty accessible even to urban dwellers. For contemporaries living in an industrializing world, these scenes offered an idealized vision of leisure and escape. Today, they impart a nostalgic charm, transporting readers into a gentler age of slow travel and riverside discovery. The novel's structure, a hybrid of travelogue and farce, also contributes to its wide appeal. Jerome intersperses practical advice on boat handling and camping equipment with scholarly diversions into topics like bathing costume history or cook stove mechanics. These asides heighten the contrast between learned commentary and the trio's chaotic reality, while lending the book an episodic momentum that sustains reader interest. The balance between useful information and unrestrained jest keeps the tone light and prevents the humor from feeling contrived. Translation and adaptation have further extended Three Men in a Boat's reach. Its concise prose and situational comedy translate easily into other languages, making it a staple of school curricula and popular reading lists worldwide. Film, television, and stage adaptations have reimagined Jerome's journey for successive generations, each time reaffirming the source material's robustness and flexibility. Finally, the work taps into a universal longing for simple pleasures and shared adventure. By championing the delight of idleness, fellowship, and good-natured folly, Jerome invites readers to embrace life's imperfections. His gentle satire of Victorian values, workaholism, social pretension, and over-planning remains surprisingly relevant, offering a reminder that laughter and friendship often provide the best antidote to modern stresses. Together, these elements, masterful comic craft, relatable characters, evocative setting, innovative structure, adaptability, and an uplifting spirit, coalesce to explain why Three Men in a Boat endures as one of the most beloved comic classics in English literature.
We are filming one of the famous scenes when we are on a boat. It was a very fun experience. It was nice, like as you can see, like very sunny weather, perfect day to film such a scene. We're in a Clifton house, a very nice territory. Very recommending to go for nice to hang out for one nice day. So my character, he's a bit of lazy but somewhat practical, loving double checking all the packaging, and he tends to exaggerate the story for like long time, and that's usually what's causing the arguments with the other two, right?
Hey, my name is Fador. I work in IT myself, but I've joined Katya's filming group not that long ago, and we're currently filming 3 Men in a Boat. We've spent a day over here on the Thames River. Well, we're actually in the boat for the day. I play Jerome, the lead character, the peace-loving character. The character is actually based on the author himself. It's been a nice day so far. Quite hot today. It's around 30 Celsius, so it's a bit challenging fighting the heat, but we had a good time.
My name is Maxim. I work in financial services. I've been in the UK for 15 years. I took part in this project as I found it interesting. I'm playing character George in project 3 Men in a Boat. I found that George mostly resembles myself in real life because George is a banker. He works in financial services just like me. He is quite grounded, very practical, a little bit lazy but still witty. He's quite humorous and is definitely a great addition to the company. He's fun to be around with. He's quite innovative and creative. So I found that these qualities are something that resembles myself, and I find this quite interesting. And it's generally a great vibe to be part of this project and this whole filming idea.
In 3 Men in a Boat, Jerome K. Jerome's intrepid trio set out from Kingston upon Thames and planned to paddle all the way to Oxford, encountering a succession of riverside towns, locks, and landmarks that together form a delightful tapestry of Victorian river travel. They depart from Kingston, pushing off from the slipway near the ancient market town. Almost immediately they pass under the old bridge and enter the stretch toward Teddington Lock, the first major weir that marks the tidal limit. Dodging swirling currents, they portage the boat past the lock gates and marvel at the 18th century lock keeper's cottage on the bank. Relaunched below the lock, the boat drifts toward Hampton Court Palace, its red brick facade glimpsed through the willows. The party pauses briefly to admire the royal gardens before pressing on beneath the ornate suspension bridge at Moulsey, where pleasure craft cluster at the yacht club. Soon they reach Sunbury Weir, noted for its turbulent flow, and later Belweir Lock, whose weeping willows line the bank and conceal a notorious landing stage. Between locks, the river broadens, offering views of riverside villas and the occasional small island dotting the stream. At Shepperton Lock, the men bungle their approach, mistaking a shoal for the slipway and nearly capsizing. A short paddle downstream brings them to Chertsey Bridge, where slate roofs of the old abbey churches make a pleasing backdrop. Beyond lies quiet Laleham, with its red-tiled manor houses visible just above the bank. By mid-morning they arrive at Staines, a bustling coaching town whose bridge arches carry drovers and carts across the water. Here they replenish supplies and suffer sunburned faces from a misguided stop on the towpath grass. Passing the meadowy floodplain at Egham, they note Runnymede historic flat meadows, where Magna Carta was sealed centuries earlier. A swift pull brings them to Windsor and Eton, crowned by the turrets of Windsor Castle. The castle's silhouette against the sky prompts a momentary awe, though the men quickly resume bickering over lunch arrangements. Downstream, they float beneath Maidenhead Railway Bridge, its graceful brick arches spanning the water. At Cookham, the river narrows again, and they admire the yellow brick cottages that cluster about the old mill. A brief stop at Bourne End finds them wrestling with the landing steps in high reeds. Soon they come upon Marlow, its elegant stone bridge framing the willow-lined bank. The town's genteel air does little to calm their jangled nerves, and they hurry onward past deserted gravel bars and shady overhanging elms. By late afternoon they reach Henley-on-Thames, famous for its fine regatta course. The water here stretches straight and broad, and they paddle beneath a row of banners strung for the next racing season. A bungled landing leaves them soaked and frayed, but they press on. Beyond Henley, the river weaves past Temple Island, site of the regatta's start, and threads between slender streams toward Shiplake, where the church spire rises above poplar trees. The lock at Shiplake finds them fumbling with oars and ropes until a patient lock keeper shows them the proper procedure. Further on, they glimpse Sonning Bridge and the attendant inn, famous for trout dinners, but the prospect of supper only intensifies their collective exhaustion. At last, as twilight falls, they spy the dreaming spires of Oxford beyond the willows, their final goal.
Three Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog, remains a deceptively simple tale whose enduring appeal arises from Jerome K. Jerome's masterful blend of humor, camaraderie, and gentle social satire. What began as a practical guide to Thames boating effortlessly transformed into a comic tapestry of human foibles and riverine charm. Across its pages, the reader witnesses capricious English weather, bungled attempts at self-sufficiency, and the ceaseless unpredictability of both men and dog, yet through every mishap, one senses an undercurrent of affectionate goodwill and boundless optimism. Central to the novel's success is its portrayal of friendship under minor duress. J.'s whimsical hypochondria, George's exasperated pragmatism, Harris's reckless bravado, and Montmorency's anarchic instincts play off one another with the precision of a well-rehearsed comedy troupe. Their collective inability to erect a tent, prepare a meal, or navigate a lock becomes a mirror in which every reader can see their own awkwardness and occasional overconfidence. This self-deprecating approach to leisure invites readers not only to laugh at the protagonists but also to embrace their own imperfections with equal good humor. Moreover, Jerome's vivid depiction of the Thames landscape elevates the novel from mere farce to a kind of pastoral celebration. The river itself emerges as a character, sometimes serene and reflective, sometimes turbulent and capricious, always alive with possibility. Whether drifting past ivy-clad cottages or pausing beneath swaying willows, the men, and by extension, the reader, are constantly reminded of the restorative power of nature. In an age of accelerating industrialization, this unhurried voyage served as both an antidote to modern stress and a nostalgic homage to countryside leisure. The novel's episodic structure, weaving practical advice with comic set pieces and literary digressions, ensures that its pace never flags. Each chapter introduces a new scenario, be it a mosquito invasion, a culinary disaster, or a solo expedition by Montmorency. Yet Jerome's light, conversational tone stitches these vignettes into a coherent narrative. This balance of information and irreverence anticipates modern travel writing, where personal anecdote and practical detail interlace to entertain and inform. Beyond its immediate entertainment value, Three Men in a Boat subtly critiques Victorian anxieties about health, class, and propriety. The men's hypochondria lampoons the era's obsession with medical theory, while their social faux pas, overdressed for a casual excursion or grossly underprepared for the elements, expose the rigid expectations of respectability. At the same time, the novel celebrates a democratized vision of leisure. No aristocratic lineage or specialist skill is needed to find joy in a punt on the river. Ultimately, the legacy of Jerome's work lies in its affirmation that laughter, friendship, and a shared sense of adventure are the true riches of any journey. The trio's final arrival at Oxford, frazzled, bedraggled, and thoroughly battle-scarred, feels less like a triumphant conquest and more like a warm reunion with home. Their misadventures may have made the trip longer and more chaotic, but they also made it unforgettable. More than 130 years after its first appearance, Three Men in a Boat continues to delight new generations of readers precisely because its humor is rooted not in topical satire but in the universal quirks of human nature. The Thames may have changed, and the era of leisurely river holidays may have yielded to faster-paced pursuits, but the novel's core message endures, that life's imperfections are not merely obstacles to be overcome, but opportunities for mirth, reflection, and the forging of lifelong bonds. In laughing at George, Harris, and Montmorency, we are reminded to laugh at ourselves, and, in doing so, to savor every turn of the river's graceful course.